Whistling theme music fades in and out. I am the whistler, and I know many things, for I walk by night. I know many strange tales hidden in the hearts of men and women who have stepped into the shadows. Yes, I know the nameless terrors of which they dare not speak. Tonight I shall tell you the story of Margaret Henley, a woman who thought she could escape her past by changing her name and moving 3,000 miles away from everything she had ever known. But the past, dear listeners, has a way of following us, no matter how far we run or how deeply we try to bury it. Sound effect, telephone ringing. Margaret Henley, nervous, refined voice. Hello? Henley residence? Voice on the phone, distorted, menacing. Hello, Sarah. Did you think we wouldn't find you? Margaret, shocked, drops the phone. No, this can't be happening. Not after all these years. Narrator, the whistler. Margaret Henley had been living peacefully in the quiet coastal town of Millbrook for 7 years. She had a modest flower shop on Main Street, a small apartment above the bakery, and had even begun to allow herself the luxury of believing she might find happiness again. But that telephone call on a rainy Tuesday evening in October would shatter the carefully constructed life she had built. You see, Margaret Henley was not her real name. Once, long ago, she had been Sarah Mitchell, and Sarah Mitchell had witnessed something that certain people would do anything to keep buried. Sound effect, footsteps on wet pavement, rain falling. Margaret, to herself, walking quickly. Think, Sarah, think! How did they find me? I was so careful. New name, new social security number, new life. 7 years, 7 peaceful years. Sound effect, door chimes as she enters a shop. Henry Walsh, elderly, warm voice. Margaret, my dear, you look absolutely dreadful. Come in out of this rain. What's gotten into you? Margaret, trying to compose herself. Henry, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Has anyone been asking about me? Strangers in town? People asking questions at the diner or the post office? Henry, concerned. Well, now that you mention it, there was a fellow came by the hardware store yesterday, city type, expensive suit. Said he was looking for someone who might have moved here from back east. Asked if I knew anyone who kept to themselves, maybe seemed like they were running from something. I told him we mind our own business here in Millbrook. But Margaret, why are you asking? Margaret, voice trembling. Henry, if anyone else comes asking about me, you don't know me. Do you understand? You've never seen me before in your life. Henry, alarmed. Margaret, what kind of trouble are you in? Maybe I can help. I've lived in this town for 60 years, and I've seen my share of problems. Margaret, desperate. No, Henry, this isn't the kind of trouble that gets solved by neighbors helping neighbors. This is the kind that gets people hurt. Promise me you'll stay out of it. Narrator, the whistler. Henry Walsh had known Margaret Henley for 7 years, had watched her build her little flower shop from nothing, had seen her slowly come out of her shell and begin to trust again. But the woman standing in his hardware store that night was someone else entirely. The fear in her eyes was ancient, deep-rooted, the kind that comes from having seen things that ordinary people only read about in newspapers. As Margaret hurried back into the rain, Henry couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching her walk toward something terrible. Sound effect, door slamming, footsteps running upstairs. Margaret, breathing heavily, talking to herself. Suitcase. Where's my suitcase? I kept it for a reason. Always knew this day might come. Money in the coffee tin. Fake identification papers in the box behind the photograph. 7 years of being Margaret Henley, and it's over in one phone call.
Sound effect. Suitcase latches clicking. Papers rustling. Margaret finding something. The photograph. God, I haven't looked at this in years. Danny, sweet Danny, if only you could see what your so-called friends did to me after you were gone. They said it was an accident, but I was there. I saw what really happened that night at the warehouse. Sound effect. Telephone ringing again. Margaret. Hello? Voice on the phone, same distorted voice. Running again, Sarah? You can't keep running forever. We know about the flower shop. We know about Henry Walsh at the hardware store. We know about Mrs. Patterson who brings you soup when you're sick. Do you want them to pay for your stubbornness? Margaret, angry now. Leave them alone. They have nothing to do with this. This is between you and me. That's where you're wrong, Sarah. You made it about them the moment you decided to build a life here. But we're reasonable people. We're willing to make a deal. Meet us at the old pier tomorrow night at midnight. Come alone, and your new friends stay safe. Margaret, defeated. And if I don't, voice on the phone, then Millbrook is going to have a very bad week. House fires, car accidents, people disappearing. You know what we're capable of, Sarah. You saw what we did to Danny when he got too curious. Sound effect. Phone line goes dead. Narrator, the whistler. Margaret Henley stood alone in her small apartment, holding a dead telephone and staring at a photograph of a man named Danny Carver. Danny had been her husband, her partner, her best friend. He had also been a newspaper reporter with an unfortunate habit of asking the wrong questions about the right people. The night he was killed, Sarah Mitchell had been hidden in the shadows of a warehouse, watching as 3 men in expensive suits had what they called a conversation with her husband. She had seen them push him from the loading dock, had heard the sickening sound of his body hitting the concrete below, and she had heard them discuss making it look like an accident, talking about their connections in the police department and how easy it would be to close the case without an investigation. Sound effect, wind howling, waves crashing. Margaret, walking alone, talking to herself. 7 years, Danny. 7 years I've been hiding from them, and now they've found me. I should have known they wouldn't give up. Men like Vincenzo Carlucci don't leave loose ends. They're probably worried that after all this time I might have gotten brave enough to talk to someone, to tell the truth about what happened to you. Sound effect, footsteps on wooden pier. Margaret calling out, I'm here! I came alone just like you asked. Now let's get this over with. Sound effect, multiple footsteps approaching. Vincent Carlucci, smooth, dangerous voice. Sarah Mitchell, you look different, older. 7 years of looking over your shoulder will do that to a person. Margaret, trying to sound brave. What do you want, Vincenzo? Haven't you taken enough from me? Vincenzo, what I want is insurance. You see, Sarah, my business has grown considerably since your husband decided to stick his nose where it didn't belong. I have investors now, political connections, legitimate enterprises. I can't afford to have someone out there who might decide to write a tell-all book or give an interview to the wrong journalist. Margaret, I've kept quiet for 7 years. I built a new life, stayed out of everyone's way. What makes you think I'd suddenly decide to talk now? Vincenzo, because people change, Sarah. They get lonely, they get guilty, they get ideas about justice and doing the right thing. Your husband had ideas like that. Look where it got him. Margaret, voice breaking. You didn't have to kill him. He was just trying to write a story about corruption in the city. He wasn't trying to destroy your life. Vincenzo. He was trying to destroy my business, which is the same thing. And now, unfortunately, you've become bad for business too. The boys and I have been discussing your situation, and we've come to a decision. Margaret, realizing her fate. You're going to kill me? Vincenzo, I'm going to solve a problem. Nothing personal, you understand. You seem like a nice enough woman. Under different circumstances, we might have been friends.
You know what, Vincent? I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of looking over my shoulder and jumping every time the phone rings. If you're going to kill me, then do it. But know this, I'm not the same frightened woman who ran away 7 years ago. Is that right? And what exactly are you going to do about it? I'm going to tell you something that might change your mind about killing me. You see, I didn't spend 7 years just hiding and running a flower shop. I spent 7 years preparing for this moment. I documented everything I saw that night, everything I heard, names, dates, details about your organization that you probably forgot you mentioned. And I didn't just write it down once. I made copies, lots of copies. You're bluffing. Try me. I sent sealed envelopes to lawyers in 3 different states with instructions to open them if anything happens to me. I also sent copies to journalists in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, people who, unlike my husband, have the resources and connections to make sure your story gets told whether you like it or not. Everything else is true. We could find these lawyers, these journalists. Money talks, Sarah. People can be persuaded to forget things. Maybe, but can you find all of them before the story breaks? Can you silence every newspaper, every radio station, every person who might decide that the truth about Vincent Carlucci is worth more than whatever you're paying them to keep quiet? Standing on that wind-swept pier, Margaret Henley played the only card she had left. She had indeed spent 7 years preparing for this moment, not by running or hiding, but by building an insurance policy that would protect her even in death. The documentation was real, the lawyers were real, and the journalists were very real. But would it be enough to save her life, or would Vincent Carlucci decide that his reputation was worth the risk? You know what I think, Sarah? I think you're a very clever woman, cleverer than your husband ever was. He thought he could bring me down with one newspaper story. You've built yourself a whole network of insurance policies. I learned from watching what happened to Danny. He trusted the system to protect him. I decided to become the system. But here's what I don't understand. If you have all this protection, all these safety nets, why are you still afraid? Why run when we called? Why not just tell us to go away and leave you alone? Because I'm not just protecting myself anymore. I told you, Vincent, I built a life here. I have friends, people who care about me. I couldn't let you hurt them because of something I did 7 years ago. So you came here tonight knowing you might die to protect a bunch of strangers who don't even know your real name? They're not strangers. They're my family. And yes, I'd die to protect them, just like Danny died trying to protect people he'd never met by exposing the truth about what you were doing. You know what, Sarah? I believe you. I believe you die for these people, and I believe you've got enough insurance policies out there to make my life very complicated if something happens to you. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a different kind of deal. What kind of deal? You keep your mouth shut. You stay in your little flower shop. You live your quiet life as Margaret Henley. In exchange, you and your friends stay safe. No threats, no intimidation, no mysterious accidents. I have my word. And what guarantee do I have that you'll keep your word? The same guarantee I have that you'll keep quiet.
Mutual assured destruction, Sarah. If you talk, my business gets hurt. If I hurt you, your insurance policies kick in and my business gets hurt even worse. It's what they call a stalemate. All right, Vincent, but understand this. If anything happens to Henry Walsh or Mrs. Patterson or anyone else in this town, the deal is off. I don't care what it costs me personally. Fair enough. But Sarah, if you ever decide to write that book or give that interview, remember the deals can be broken by both sides. The people you care about are safe as long as you remain Margaret Henley, flower shop owner. The moment you become Sarah Mitchell, witness to a murder, all bets are off. Margaret Henley walked back to her small apartment that night, carrying the weight of a secret that would stay buried forever. She had won a victory of sorts, but it was the kind of victory that tastes like defeat. She would live, her friends would be safe, and Vincent Carlucci would continue his business without interference. Justice for Danny Carver would remain a dream deferred, perhaps forever. But sometimes, dear listeners, survival is its own form of justice. Sometimes the best we can do is protect the innocent and hope that somewhere, somehow, the truth will find its own way to the surface. It's over. It's finally over. Hello? Margaret, are you all right? I saw lights in your apartment and I was worried. After what you said earlier. Henry, I'm fine. Everything is going to be fine. And Henry, thank you for caring. It means more than you know. Well, that's what neighbors are for. You sure you're all right? You sound different somehow. I am different, Henry. I'm Margaret Henley, and I'm home. 3 months later, Margaret Henley's shop had its best season ever. She had joined the town's garden club, started dating the widowed librarian, and even considered adopting a dog from the animal shelter. She had learned to live with her secret, to carry the weight of unfinished justice without letting it destroy the life she had built. Vincent Carlucci kept his word, and she kept hers. The past remained buried, but the future, for the first time in 7 years, seemed bright with possibility. Good morning, Mrs. Patterson. The usual arrangement for the church service? Yes, dear. Those white roses you suggested last week were just beautiful. You have such a gift for knowing exactly what people need. Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. I've learned that sometimes the most beautiful things grow in the most unexpected places. Margaret Henley had indeed learned to bloom where she was planted, to find beauty and meaning in a life built on compromise and hidden truths. She had made peace with her choices, with the knowledge that sometimes protecting the innocent requires sacrificing the perfect justice we all dream of. But late at night, when the shop was closed and the town was sleeping, she would still look at the photograph of Danny Carver and whisper promises that someday, somehow, the truth would find its way to the light. Until then, she would be Margaret Henley, keeper of secrets, protector of the innocent, and gardener of hope in a world that sometimes demands we choose between justice and love. The rain's starting again. Time to water the flowers and tend to the garden. Some secrets are worth keeping, Danny. Some prices are worth paying. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose to live with the consequences of your choices and find a way to make them mean something good. And so Margaret Henley continued her quiet life in Millbrook, tending her flowers and nurturing her friendships, carrying her secret like a stone in her heart, but refusing to let it sink her. She had learned that justice comes in many forms, and sometimes the most important justice is the kind that protects the innocent from the sins of the guilty. The returnees, those ghosts from her past, had indeed found her, but they had not destroyed her. Instead, they had given her the chance to discover who she really was beneath the fear and the running. She was Margaret Henley, and she was exactly where she belonged.